All right, let's talk about something powerful, perspective. You know how sometimes the very things that feel like they're holding you back can actually be the things that push you forward the most? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're drawing from this incredible book, No Bad Days, which tells the story of JT Mestdagh. And let me tell you, his journey completely changes how you think about climbing a mountain. It all kicks off with a claim that just makes you stop and think. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, one of the highest peaks on the planet, was easier for him than learning to read. How is that even possible, right? To get it, we've got to go back and look at the other mountains JT had to climb, the ones he faced long before he ever saw Africa. Okay, first off, let's just take a second to appreciate what a massive deal this is. We're talking 19,341 feet. That is insanely high. It's a monumental achievement for anyone. But here's the kicker. For JT, this physical mountain, it was just the last one in a long line of summits he'd already reached. You see, way before he ever saw the snows of Kilimanjaro, JT was busy climbing a whole different set of mountains, ones that were way steeper and way more personal. It all started, believe it or not, the day he was born. JT was diagnosed with something called VATER's syndrome. Now, to get that diagnosis, a baby just needs to have 3 of these specific birth defects. JT, he was born with all 5. I mean, from the absolute get-go, the odds were just completely stacked against him. Think about this number, 16. That's how many major surgeries he went through by the time he was 16 years old, one for every year of his life. And then there's this number, 250. That's the number of days he'd spent in a hospital, and he was only 3 years old. Imagine that, a full quarter of his entire young life just in a hospital. But as tough as all that was, and you know it was incredibly tough, all that physical pain, it was nothing compared to the battle he was fighting inside his own head. On top of everything, JT had severe dyslexia and issues with short-term memory. And then his parents get this devastating news from a school psychologist. Basically, he's illiterate, and he always will be. He's never going to learn to read. Can you even imagine hearing that about your kid? It felt like rock bottom. Like a door didn't just close, it was slammed, bolted, and locked for good. But here's the thing about climbing mountains, right? You need a guide. And this is where the story completely changes. It's all because of the people in his life who looked at that locked door and said, nope, we're not accepting that. First and foremost, his guides were his parents. They just flat out refused to believe what that psychologist said. They went to bat for him, became his biggest champions. They taught him this amazing lesson. Your circumstances can make you bitter or better. It's a choice. And they just never, ever stopped searching for a solution. You know, his parents found a lot of comfort in this one essay, Welcome to Holland. It's this beautiful metaphor, right? It's like you plan your whole life for this amazing trip to Italy. But when the plane lands, you're in Holland. It's not what you expected, but you learn to find all the wonderful, beautiful things about Holland instead. That's kind of what it was like for them. And that relentless search, it finally paid off. They found this guy, Steve Tatum. He was a special ed expert, but he had let's say, a radical new way of doing things. And he was about to change JT's entire world. Okay, get this. Their first meeting, Steve takes one look at the old flipbook JT was using, chucks it across the room and goes, "You'll never see that again." Bam. Instead, he pulls out these magnetic tiles, making sounds something you could actually touch and move around. And then he has JT read a totally made-up nonsense word, unruption. That one little moment shattered the I can't belief in JT's head. That locked door, it just got kicked wide open. So now let's go back to that mountain in Africa. Because it turns out all those lessons JT learned while conquering his inner mountains, they were the perfect training for climbing a real one. So there he is, on Kilimanjaro. It's a tough climb, the air is getting thin, and he keeps hearing his local guides saying this one phrase over and over, almost like a chant. The phrase was pole pole. In Swahili, it means slowly, slowly. And it's basically the #1 rule of the mountain. You try to rush it, try to race to the top, and you're going to burn out fast. You won't make it. But if you go slowly, deliberately, one patient step at a time, that's how you get to the summit. And suddenly, it all clicked for JT. Climbing this massive mountain, it was the exact same process as learning to read. Taking one slow step on that trail was just like sounding out one new word with his tutor. Patience wasn't just helpful, it was everything. It was the secret to reaching both summits. And that whole experience really cemented this philosophy he'd had for years, something he'd always talked about with his dad. It's really the heart of his entire story. And it's this: there are no bad days, only hard days. Think about that difference. It's a small change in words, but it's a huge change in mindset, right? A bad day feels like you've lost. It's a dead end. But a hard day, that's a challenge. That's a test. It's something you can work through and get stronger from. It turns a roadblock into an opportunity for growth. Okay, so this is where it all comes back to us, to you. How can we take these lessons from JT's incredible journey and actually use them? What's your mountain? Seriously, take a second. What's that obstacle in your life right now? The thing that makes you feel like you're having a bad day. Now, what happens if you just switch the label? What if it's not a bad day, but a hard day? An opportunity to prove how strong you are. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, embrace that pull-pull mindset. Slow and steady wins the race, for real. Second, find your guides. Build that support system of people who believe in you no matter what. Third, reframe those bad days as hard days. And maybe the biggest one of all, don't let anyone or anything, not a diagnosis, not a teacher, not even that voice inside your own head, tell you what you're capable of. So let's leave it with this thought. JT took what should have been his biggest weakness and turned it into his greatest strength. So what about you? What if you took your biggest challenge, the thing that feels impossible, and reframed it as your greatest opportunity? Just imagine, what mountain could you climb then?